Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Moto, and if you're plugged in to the motorcycle news world, this bike will need very little introduction for you. This is, well, and also because it's in the title of the video, but this is the Kawasaki KLE500. Just like Honda has done with their 500 series bikes, Kawasaki has taken their excellent 451cc 500 series parallel twin, and they have it now in the Ninja, the Eliminator, the Z, and this adventure style KLE500. But unlike Honda with their NX500, if I'm not mistaken, this one is a proper go all around sort of motorcycle. But it is not as capable as some of the big boy adventure bikes and the dual sports, so I do suspect a lot of people are going to purchase this motorcycle and maybe take it on some adventuring, but mostly use it as a daily rider. Because take away suspension travel, take away ground clearance, take away tires, this is actually a very usable, comfortable, protective, and nice to ride sort of daily rider formula. A lot of people think, oh, you know, a naked bike or a sport bike or something like that. That's what I want to ride daily. But you want wind protection, you want some hand protection, you want upright visibility, and you want comfort. You want some suspension travel for broken up pavement. This is just about the best way to do it. Well, actually, we're going to find that here today. I've spent very little time on this bike. That's kind of the beauty of these Commuter tests, is it's kind of a first impressions ride for me. So if you do want to see our full review where I'm going to take it off-road and spend meaningful months with this motorcycle and give you my full informed evaluation, stay tuned, stay subscribed, because that'll be coming a few months from now. But I've been excited to get a leg over this bike for a long time because I'm a big fan of the Kawasaki 500 class bikes. I think the Ninja 500 and the Z500 are some of the best do-it-all affordable kind of motorcycles on the market, and this one should be slotting right nicely into that household. This is going to be first start of the last few weeks for me. Like I said, I rode this back from Kawasaki headquarters, and that has been it. Get it up into neutral. And of course comes right to life with its fuel injection, electric start. About $8,100 after destination for this SE package. The SE getting you a little bit meatier skid plate underneath there, protect the engine, getting you a TFT dash, getting you some new colors, bigger windshield, yeah, two-piece seat. These tires honestly look like a pretty decent compromise between having some off-road grip and having some on-road refinement. This bike, how many miles we have on here? 482. Seems like these tires have already been worn down pretty decently, so I bet you they've been 482 hard miles. Yeah, okay. And look at the shape of this tank. You've got a pretty low seat and a pretty high tank. That's thanks to the airbox being right under here. The way Kawasaki has designed the engine low, airbox high, and kind of fuel tank tucked in there as well. So, despite this being kind of an off-roady sort of bike, myself at 5'10", 32-inch inseam, I actually have both of my feet nearly fully planted, my heels ever so slightly off the ground, but definitely my toes firmly on the ground here, sitting. Suspension kind of compresses a little bit. I'm gonna plug in my vest, and we're heading to the gas station. Slipper and assist clutch, so very light, very easy. I find myself rarely ever having issues with these Kawasaki 500s from a clutching perspective. And right off the bat, the handlebars are actually kind of far away. Now I sort of like that. I like to ride with my arms very outstretched, but if you're a little bit more of a T-Rex, you might have a bit of an awkward time with that. It'll be interesting to see how it is over the whole ride here. Also kind of an interesting shape to these mirrors. They got a pretty aggressive V down here. And I guess that kind of works because you can't see too much around here anyway because your body blocks it, but all right. They don't stick out any wider than the handlebars, so when we are lane filtering, that should be our biggest restriction. Now this is a pretty simple, under-stressed, 180-degree crank parallel twin engine. and makes about 51 horsepower. I think it was about 37 pound-feet of torque, if I'm not mistaken. And you can rev it out pretty high. You can see our red line starting there at 11 grand. But it's not high compression ratio relatively or anything like that. And for daily riding, you'll have no problem running 87 octane. I know some people are going to come in and say, oh, I only run 91 on my bike. Also, you Europeans, side note, you use a different method of anti-knock measurement, so don't get it confused with our 87 and 91. But anyway, this bike only needs 87, so don't waste your cash. I mean, if you're going to go out and scream at 11,000 RPM through the canyons, sure, throw some 91 in there if it helps you feel better, but you don't need to. Pretty simple control set on here. You can see looking around the handlebars, it's pretty basic. Definitely tell some money was saved there, which I don't have a problem with. I don't want this bike to be any more expensive. Click right here, trip A, hold that down. Bada bing, bada boom. Doesn't get much easier than that, does it, folks? Gear indicator, happy to have that. Look at the fuel gauge, though. For some reason, the top half is all just one big bar, and then it's 3 different chunks after that. It's kind of a funny way to do it. We're off. No ride modes here on the KLE. This is a very classic cable actuated throttle, no throttle by wire. And you know, some throttle by wire bikes are really good and you can barely tell, but others just miss that feeling of resistance. Ooh, new mail truck. They miss that feeling of resistance and that responsiveness that I really like from a cable actuated throttle. So, okay, we're just not gonna go, that's great. Now the windshield has height adjustments, but it's kind of difficult to make the adjustments. You got to use an Allen key and you got to kind of set it in your garage as opposed to something you can quick and easy do on the fly. It's up in its highest position right now, so I'm hoping that that's going to provide a nice wind-free or at least wind-reduced experience for us throughout the commute here today. It's possible it'll be a little buffety on the highway, but we will find out. It seems to have a nice little lip to it on the top. Also cool that they did these kind of see-through side and bottom elements to the windscreen. It's an interesting profile right in front. It's very straight and pointy looking. The overall seating and tank design does remind me a bit of my V-Strom 650. You sit more in this bike than on it. I kind of like that. Some people prefer to be perched up on top. Outside temperature today, we're in the upper 60s, just right near sea level. We're going to be riding as you would on a casual morning commute like this. It's going to be taking it nice and easy, getting up into appropriate gear and cruising about within 5 miles per hour of posted speed limits. These are actually some big, meaty handguards on the outside. They've got metal supports. So theoretically, if you were to fall with those, they're going to stay in one piece. It's kind of cool. I wouldn't have been surprised to just have kind of plastic on this sort of bike. Something I've also always appreciated about these little Kawasaki's is that we have a coolant temp gauge. And I don't know, it's not necessary. I just kind of like seeing what temperature my bike's running at, you know? We're a little cold right now, which there's nothing I'm going to do about it really, and the fan automatically kicks on around 219, I believe, Fahrenheit. So it's just something that myself as a little bit of a, you know, a nerd, I just kind of like knowing, whereas most bikes at this price point don't have that. Quick gear check. We are in probably the most fitting gear I could possibly think of for this motorcycle. We've got my Revit ADV combo going. So we've got the off-track jacket, the boundless boots, the Ortez jeans, and the dirt gloves. This is a great set of gear for a bike like this because it really is appropriate and fitting. And oh, that is a coyote right there. Bro, quit eating our cats. Anyway, very fitting for just about any sort of riding you're gonna go do on this type of motorcycle. You can ride into the office, you can ride on the weekends, you can go off-road. You might want a little bit more of an aggressive ankle support boot if you're gonna be doing a lot of off-road riding, but these boots kind of, they bridge the gap everywhere for street riding, if you will. So I've been really happy with this set from Revit. I do need to close my vents. You can see I got this jacket and these gloves and these boots, all pretty dusty and dirty when we were out comparing the KLX to the XR150 a few weekends ago. Haven't really cleaned it up, but It's all been working really nicely. In fact, these gloves have gotten more comfortable since I purchased them. They've kind of broken in. You can see right there coming away in second gear. Just shows the versatility of this powertrain. When Kawasaki bumped the displacement up just enough to consider these to be 500cc motors, they added a little bit of meat down low. There's a little bit more grunt, a little bit more twist to this engine. Up top didn't really change from the 400 series bikes, but you can see back there coming away, I have no problem getting up to speed comfortably, even with a little bit of extra weight here in the KLE factor. No problem for this engine. I've also got my Arai Contour X on my head. I like this helmet because the colorway makes it so people are more likely to see me, but then the helmet itself is designed for ultimate crash protection. It's also nice and comfortable and calm. It's a very great wear it anywhere sort of helmet. Admittedly, if you're going to be doing a little bit more off-roading with your KLE, you might want to pick something like the Arai XD5. It's a helmet I'll probably be trying out at some point, but I've been really happy with my Contour X now. Had it almost a year, love throwing it on, always comfortable. The only thing that's kind of been bothering me with it is, any of you with Arai helmets might know, sometimes the face shield is difficult to open. You kind of have to do the snap click open design on the left side. Sometimes it doesn't want to open. I really got to force it. So I bet you I didn't install my windshield perfectly, and if I reinstalled that, it might do better. But other than that, I've been really happy with the helmet. Down here, running through some slower speed traffic, you're definitely going to appreciate the upright seating position here on the KLE. Very easy to swivel your head around to see what's going on. And like I said, you don't sit quite as high as you do on some other ADV bikes and dual sports. So it's not like you have this crazy high perched view that you do from some other bikes, but it's still better than a sport bike. It still allows you to see around quite a bit. Again, utilizing that grunty motor and light clutch to zip around. But these handlebars are very wide. Now, if you were running saddlebags on the back, panniers, something like that, then they'll probably be about the same width. It wouldn't be as big of a deal. But if you are in an area like California where you can legally lane filter, it might be a little tougher for you here, as it has been for me. Beware of the Maxima. Beware of the Ultima. They are dangerous. And that one seems to have something going on with its front bumper, which is not uncommon. Also, beware of the Corolla just sitting in there, and beware of the RAV4 that's just cutting right in front of traffic. A lot to be aware of. You know, you have a stitched front bumper, Ultima. That's not too surprising. Cloudy day here on PCH. We haven't had one of those in a little while. July 2nd. Thought June gloom was supposed to be over Southern California. It's not called July Cry, is it? Oh, and we've got some excavation going on in order to clear out the walkway here, Crystal Cove. I better not fall into the ocean. Laguna Beach, great opportunity to talk about engine note. Very refined here on the little 451cc twin. Nothing special. It's a fine little grunt. Sounds pretty much exactly the same as it sounds on all the other Kawasaki 500s. I slightly prefer Honda's 471cc 500 motor. It just has a little bit of a gruntier sound. Either way, this sounds fine. If you throw a pipe on it, it's probably going to be a little annoying. So unless you want to save some weight with an aftermarket exhaust, just stick with what Kawi gave you here from the factory. Here's one of these lane filtering situations. Yeah, we're going to be fine through here, I believe. Oh, a Murano cross cap. Wow. But again, just a little bit more precarious than something like the Z500. This slow speed section, again, great opportunity to point out the low seat height and easy ground touchability and maneuverability on the KLE. Now, I didn't have to stop there much, but it's nice to be able to just put a foot or two down very comfortably, keep on riding. 3rd Street Hill. It's a good reminder, do we have traction control on this bike? That is something I forgot to look up. I know we have ABS. I don't think we have traction control. I'll try to confirm here at some point. or you guys will just be seeing text below that already tells you. Coming up to our spirited riding section. If you have a part of your commute that's a little twisty, a little bit higher speed, you might want to uncork the 500 a little bit, see what we can do. I've always appreciated this motor because it's so fun to ring out. Even on this little bit bigger bike, you get a little bit of a crescendo there, up above about 8,000 RPM. Right there. It's rewarding. Nice high pegs, so plenty of room to put this bike over on its side. Suspension taking these little road imperfections well also. No adjustability up front, basic preload adjustment in the rear. And even with the passenger back there, I think you could tighten things up and be pretty comfortable over most road situations on this bike. Coming into the end of the city portion of the ride on the KLE. And I had an interesting development here after being on the bike for about 45 minutes at this point. The pegs are too narrow and too short for comfort, kind of just sitting and riding. However, they do make for great standing comfort. Both standing comfort and standing ergonomics. When I stand up on the bike, I can very comfortably reach the handlebars. The pegs are low, the bars, like I said, are kind of forward and high. So all of this sort of awkwardness to the seating position where your legs are kind of in to the point where my knees are almost starting to get sore and my arms are way stretched out, that starts to make total sense once I'm standing on the bike. So take that for what you will if you plan on using this as kind of a commuter daily rider sort of bike. Maybe some pegs that go a little further out, extend, and then maybe roll the handlebars in just slightly toward you. That's going to make it better for sitting on longer periods of time, but maybe not quite as good for standing. So you can see where Kawasaki kind of chose to make the standing optimal there. Other than that, it's a great little city rider. Like I said, easy clutch action, plenty of grunt, good general visibility and ergos. Yeah, not too surprising. I did forget earlier to reset the bike's fuel average fuel gauge. I've been doing so many carbureted, simple dual sports lately that I forgot that this bike even had a fuel average readout, so I forgot to reset it. I did reset it probably about 10 miles ago, so we're sitting at 52 miles per gallon since then. And I think the bike itself was sitting at 50 right before I reset that, so that's over who knows how long. But we are getting up into our 55 and up section of riding, some more suburban roads, and then the highway portion. And I will say, once this bike crests 60 miles per hour, there's too much vibration. I don't know if it's something specific with this bike I'm riding, if it's the KLE in general, or if it's this 451cc parallel twin. It's possible I noticed it less on the Z and the Ninja because those bikes are a little bit more visceral, a little bit more raw, and you kind of want to feel a little vibration. When you're revving it up and you're going higher speeds, there's so much other sensation from around the bike that a little bit of engine doesn't really bother you. But on this one, I'm expecting more of a sedate kind of cruising experience when I'm up at these higher speeds, and the engine is seeping its way into that. So we'll see as I get up to speed here, and then especially on the highway. Yeah, right there, cresting, getting up towards 6,000 RPM. I feel the engine too much. It's a buzz. I feel it in my hands, I feel it in the seat. It's a bit disappointing. Coming up to the 405 freeway. This is going to be the big make or break for me on this bike, at least from a commuting perspective, because if it's not comfortable on the highway, then you might as well just be on a dual sport. Theoretically, if you're buying an ADV bike like this, you want to be able to chew up some big miles and get to whatever kind of off-road destination you're trying to ride to. You don't want to just throw your bike in the truck. So here we are. Again, a little bit more vibration than I would like. This engine's spinning pretty quick at 70 miles per hour. I think if you were going to use this for longer highway stints, highway miles, you might want to change the rear sprocket. Maybe get some lower revs out of here, especially if you're not too concerned about the high takeoff speed. I guess your only concern then would be if you were off-roading, having that low grunty power in first. Other than that though, the windscreen on the SE is doing a fantastic job of keeping me out of the wind. I can sit again comfortably here, upright, my 32-inch inseam, 5'10". The wind is actually just clearing my helmet. I'm really happy with that. Sometimes you ride these bikes with factory windscreens and the wind sort of hits you right in the helmet, like right here, and it's louder than it would be with no windscreen. But this is actually very nice from that perspective. And again, these little bits on the side are keeping just enough wind off my torso. I'm getting a little bit of breeze in the outside vents of my Revit jacket, but that's partially on me for having the vents open. Plenty of power. Even in 6th gear, I can give it full twist and accelerate out from somebody who might be at risk of causing me harm. I think even with a pillion on the back and some luggage, I'd be able to be just fine here. Here's the thing about the vibration. If you're coming off something like a big thumper, this is going to feel butter smooth to you. It's definitely not jarring in that way. But compared to other bikes like the Transalp, like the V-Stroms, things that maybe are geared a little bit more toward riding big miles on road, like I said, I just don't love hearing and feeling the engine like I do here up at fairly tame highway speeds. I mean, it would be even more so if I were running faster. And I just came off the Z500, so I do know that this mill is capable of getting well over triple digits quite quickly. So overall power and top speed is not an issue. I just know if I were going to go out and do a few hours on the highway, completely ignoring the fact we don't have cruise control, take that out of the equation. If you've got a throttle lock on there or something like that, I mean, you're sitting and listening to this. The tires, though, do seem to be very smooth. I'm not noticing any extra vibration from those, so that's good. Here's the thing. Yes, this bike makes a little bit more vibration on the highway and makes a little more noise than I would like. However, if you own it, the thing of highway vibration and that sort of thing is after the first 5 or 10 minutes, you kind of just acclimate. I mean, the same thing happened when I had the XR650 out here. Yeah, that thing was terrible on the highway, but after 10 minutes or so, you just get used to it. Now, that's not to say it wouldn't get old again after a period of time, but I don't want you to think it's a deal breaker. I'm just telling you from the perspective of evaluating this as a new motorcycle, and if you're thinking, okay, should I get this or that? One of those more larger engines, better balanced, street-friendly type of bikes are objectively going to be better at highway speeds. They're going to have less vibration. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't fine there by the end. I was thinking of other things, had my music going, I was cruising right along. It's fine, you get used to it. Other than that, it's a pretty darn good bike for commuting. Easy to ride. Like I said, those ergos are a little bit strange. If you missed it earlier in the video, my feet are a little far in, my arms a little far out, but that's because when you stand up, very, very comfortable. So if you're somebody who does like to ride a little bit, I've got my legs fully outstretched, my arms fully outstretched. I could stand up and ride this for a long period of time. So as long as you don't live in Canada where that's illegal, I think that's kind of an interesting concession and design choice that the Kawasaki designers went with, but I can see why they did it. And speaking of interesting design choice, you think those quad tips go all the way to the heads? Unlikely, huh? But we actually saw fuel economy increase on the highway section, so we are sitting at 57 miles per gallon right now. We're gonna get this to the pump, top it off, and see what our actual calculated number is, but I'm expecting it to be quite good. 42.9 miles traveled divided by the 0.714 gallons that we put in, giving us a nice, healthy 60 miles per gallon for the KLE500 here from Kawasaki on our DM Commuter fuel economy test. Pretty darn good number for a bike with this sort of capability and protection and comfort. Modern fuel injection bikes with a little bit of aerodynamics. What a concept. We are looking at a 4.2 gallon tank on here, so 4.2 gallons times 60 miles per gallon is giving you a healthy 250 miles of mixed riding range on the KLE500. So if you're using this as a daily commuter bike, you should have no problem getting through weeks of riding before having to hit up the pump to throw in some 87 octane, making this a pretty darn cost-effective commuter bike. Let's compare it real quick before we wrap up to some of the others we've tested. I think we have, let's check the Ninja 500. All right, so the Ninja got 58 miles per gallon. All right, let's check the Z500. We just published that one recently, so that should be the same exact route. 61, okay, so 60, 61 within a margin of error right there. How about the NX500? What do you know? The exact same figure. 60 for the Honda, 64 with the KLE. That's funny. And then last one, let's check out the Transalp. That was an older one. We're going to have to test that bike again here with the E-clutch. Transalp only got 51, so we'll see how that does here on the updated route. So this one right up with the best of them, despite having some decently, fairly, I won't even quite say aggressive, but some off-road capable tires and the bigger windscreen all the way up. It's quite a usable figure. So I like this bike so far. If I were using this as a daily, like I said, a little bit strange with the ergos, but not a deal breaker for me. Easy to ride, some connectivity there with the gauge cluster, good place to put your phone and some luggage. So a lot to look forward to over the next few months here with the KLE. So like I said, be sure to subscribe if you want to see our full review coming up and any of the comparisons we do. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.